This video is going to cover 4.2, which is solving systems of equations with substitution. As a refresher from 4.1, systems of equations are two sets of equations. One way to solve them is substitution. So step one, make one of the equations say y equals or x equals. So you rearrange it so that the x or the y is alone. Step two, put that equation into the other one, substitute the variable, and then solve. Once you have one variable, you can use the answer to find the other. Let's do one. This one already says y equals 2x, so step one is done. Now we're going to put that equation into the other. So I'm going to rewrite this first equation, but instead of y, I'm going to write 2x because that's what y equals. Now I can solve. X plus 2x is 3x, and if 3x equals 120, I can divide by 3, and I get x equals 40. Now that I know that, I can use this equation, but I can substitute the x for 40, because we know x equals 40, and 2 times 40 is 80. Now that I have both of those, I can plug them into the first equation to see if it's true. So if x is 40 and y is 80, 40 plus 80 is 120. That's a true statement. So my solution is the point where they cross at 40, 80. You try the next one. We already know that y equals 3x. So I'm going to substitute that into the first equation. Combine like terms. 2x plus 3x is 5x. Divide both sides by 5. I get x equals 2. Now that I have that, I'm going to plug it into this equation. 3 times 2 is 6, so y equals 6. Plug it into the top equation to check. So 2 times 2 plus 6 equals 10. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. Those equations equal, so our solution is 2, 6. Now let's do one where we have to do step one. We have to rearrange one so it says x or y equals. Well, this first one, this bottom equation right here, has an x that's alone. So let's move the 3y to the other side by adding, and now we have x equals 1 plus 3y. So we've completed step one. Step two, we're going to plug that into this other equation. So instead of x, I'm going to write 1 plus 3y equals negative 8. Rewrote the equation, just put the equation we got in as parentheses. Solve that by distributing. So negative 2 plus negative 6y plus 3y equals negative 8. We're going to combine like terms. So negative 6y plus 3y is negative 3y. I'm going to bring the 2 over. So I get negative 3y equals negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 3, and I get y equals 2. Now that I know that, I can plug it into any of the equations. So let's just do the top one. Does not really matter which one. I would, instead of y, put 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. We get negative 2x equals negative 14. Divide by negative 2. We get x equals 7. And then we plug that in the bottom equation to check. So 7 minus 3 times 2 equals 1. Well, 3 times 2 is 6, and 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 equals 1. So our solution is the point 7, 2. You guys try these next two. Pause the video, see how you do. All right, on this one, we can make it say x equals or y equals. It doesn't matter. So let's say we decided to move the x. Y equals 8 minus x. Now, I'm going to rewrite the second equation, but instead of y, I'm going to write the 8 minus x. Now I'm going to distribute. So 2x minus 24 plus 3x equals 6, and that's because negative times a negative is positive. Combine like terms, we get 5x minus 24 equals 6. Add 24 to both sides. We get 5x equals 30. Divide by 5, and we get x equals 6. Now plug that into one of the equations. So if x plus y equals 8, and I change that to 6 plus y equals 8, subtract 6 from both sides, I get y equals 2. Plug those numbers into the bottom one. 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 2 is 6, and 12 minus 6 is 6. So our solution is 6, 2. Now this problem here, we do the same thing. Just because it's a and b, it doesn't matter. We do the same thing. We're just using a and b instead of x and y. So I'm going to subtract 4b. Now it's a equals 3 minus 4b. I'm going to rewrite that, but instead of a, I'm going to do 3 minus 4b. Distribute. Combine like terms. Subtract 9. Divide by negative 14. And I get b equals 1/2. Doesn't matter if it's a fraction. Fractions are okay. Now we're just going to plug that into one of them. Let's do this one. A equals, nope. A plus 4 times 1/2 equals 3. Well, half of 4 is 2. Subtract 2 from both sides. We get a equals 1. Plug that in the top to check. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 2 times 1/2 is negative 1. 3 times 2 is 2. So our solution is a is 1, b is 1/2. Now, just like in 4.1, we can have no solutions or infinite solutions. If the lines never cross, we're going to work it down and get an answer that's never true. If they're the same line, we're going to work it down and get an answer that's always true. So let me show you. Here, if we move the 3x, we get y equals 4 minus 3x. Plug that into the other equation. Distribute. Combine like terms, we get 8 equals 2. 8 never equals 2. That's never true. So this is no solution. Those lines will never cross on the graph. Let's try this other one. X plus y equals 2. Let's move the y. Doesn't really matter which one you move. Plug in here. If I had moved the other one, I would just be plugging in for the opposite variable. No big deal. Distribute. Combine like terms, and I get 4 equals 4. That's always true. 4 is always going to equal 4. They're the same number. So this tells us we have infinite solutions. Now let's try a couple word problems. So we're going to go back and use those skills from chapter 2, where we read our things, write our equations, solve, and check. A boy and a girl sent a total of 760 text messages in 1 month. The boy sent 3 times as many as the girl. So let's add those. Well, let's call X the boy and Y the girl. That's just what I'm going to call them. If we put them together, we had a total of 760. So X plus Y is going to be 760. The boy sent 3 times as many as the girl. So the boy equals 3 times the girl. Now we have our 2 equations. This one says X equals, so I can plug it in. So 3y plus y equals 760. Combine like terms, I get 4y equals 760. Divide both sides by 4, and you get 190. Y is the girl, so this tells us the girl sent 190 texts. To find the boy, we plug it back in. Let's plug it right in here. X equals 3 times 190, which tells us that X equals 570. So that means the boy did 570 texts. How can we check it? Well, we can add them together. 570 plus 190 gives us 760. So that works. And if you had done it the other way, if you had said Y was the boy and X was the girl, you'd get the same answer. That's why it's important to tell me what your variables are, because if you don't use the labels on the end over here, then I won't know which is which. All right, last problem for this chapter. An airplane flies 2,400 miles into the wind in 8 hours. The return trip takes 6 hours. Find the speed. So if you remember back to chapter 2, distance equals rate times time. So we have to do that for each trip. On the way there, our distance was 2,400. We don't know the rate, and our time was 8. So if we divide, right, distance equals rate, yep. Divide both sides by 8. This rate is going to be 300. On the way back, we do the same thing, same distance, but this time our speed was 6. Or our time was 6 hours. So we divide both sides by 6, and this speed is 400. Now, whenever you have a problem like this, it could be wind in a plane, it could be current in a boat, anything that's combining two speeds in one direction and then they're fighting each other in the other, one equation is going to be x plus y, one equation is going to be x minus y. Once we find those speeds, the smaller one is the subtraction, the bigger one is the addition. Then we can solve that from there. So if I add y to both sides, I would get x equals 300 plus y. Plug it in. So 300 plus y equals 400. If I combine like terms, I get 2y. Subtract 300 from both sides. We get 2y equals 100. Divide both sides by 2, and y equals 50. Now, if we go back here, x plus y equals 400. So x plus 50 equals 400. Subtract 50 from both sides, and we get x equals 350. Those would be our two things. If we plug them into the other one, 350 minus 50 is 300. Now, which would be which? Well, obviously the plane's faster than the wind. So the plane went 350 miles per hour, and the wind was 50 miles per hour. And that's how you solve these. That is 4.2. Let me know if you have any questions.